Okay, welcome back everyone. Um, Today we're going to be doing a bit of a channel update and a bit of a tournament catch up. So today, if you guys haven't been here for very long or you haven't seen the channel since the 0.19 or 18 tournament, I think, I used to do this series where basically before every tournament I would run through like the general changelog of the entire version so that we get just a general idea of how I suppose uh, the version shaped up to be, because I know that like a couple of people do miss versions and the tournament's a great time to come back. So if you guys are playing and you want to play in the next tournament, or even if you just want to catch up in general, just this is a pretty good way to do it because I'm going to be going over all the like basic stuff. Um, Also, I want to just point out that the B team for uh, this channel's stuff, I guess, is still open. We have, I believe, 2 more slots left for our B team. If there are enough people, I will also be making a C team. Just literally just comment in below. Give me your online name that you're going to be using, and I'll just sign you up automatically. Uh, but you need to hop onto Discord because I'll be telling you guys how to join, and I'll also be coordinating your efforts together with whoever's the team captain, who I haven't really decided yet. So hope like it doesn't. You don't have to be good. You don't have to be good at all. We're not looking for a competitive team on this team. We're looking for literally just learning. So if you've won like maybe 1 game or 2 games, and you want to see what it's like to win like a whole bunch, this is a really good opportunity for you guys. Even if you haven't won at all, there have been a lot of people in the last tournament that I talked to that actually won their first game in the tournament, which is really impressive. Uh, if you guys aren't aware that the tournament is coming up in 2 days, well, it is. This is really out of order, but hey, the thing is, the learning environment for crawl gets really, really good around tournament time because you see a lot of top players join the fray. You see a lot of discussion about crawl. You see a lot of players just generally improving because of how much you play. I noticed that every time I play personally, I get a ton of wins and a much higher win rate, and all my skills get really polished because I'm just so used to it. The last time I played competitively in the tournament, um, I got the world record for speedrunning my Minotaur Berserker just because I was playing so often that beating the game became routine. In the 0.19 tournament where I was less competitive, I still managed to pull out like a 6 or 7 streak just because like you just get in that zone and you're just so used to playing it that you just start to like I guess gain all that skill. I also got like 4 or 5 uh, sub 50 runs, which is pretty impressive as well. But yeah, like if you guys want to join up, please comment below. Don't worry if you see more than 2 or 3 people, like I said, commenting. I will find you a spot. If not, I will upload. I will get an entire team. I will split it up to make it so that we're all nice and even. There will be no like leaving anyone out. Okay. So if you want to sign up, just literally tell me in the comments below what your online name is, the one that you're using for the tournament, and just join the Discord. And I'll send you send me a friend invite if you can, because I'm gonna make like group combos for everyone. So without without much more, let's go into the point 20 highlights for the game. I guess I don't know. The next tournament's coming up. It's cool. So a couple of cool things. I'm just gonna go down the list, but we'll talk about how they've changed a lot of things. And I'll give you my impressions basically. So new species, Brackum. These guys are frog guys, and they jump and they're slow. Talk about that in a bit. They're very. I haven't played them yet, so I'm pretty interested to see how we're gonna do. There's gonna be a video on it in the tournaments, so don't worry about that. Poisonous vapors and ignition. That's a real highlight. I want to talk about that later. New scarves, and finally the wand changes. Those things are like the real big ones from this version, and I'll talk about that as we go down. Okay, so the first thing that is on this list apparently is that the slime pits has been changed ever so slightly. So if you guys have been playing 0.19 and then you switch over to here, you're going to notice that the middle section, if you think of the imagine the slime 5 volt to be uh 5 donut, I guess. Like imagine the middle ring has been cut out and replaced with solid glass, and once the royal jelly dies, that all explodes. So this is just a bit of a change because slimes no longer eat items. even when even when they're off screen, like they just don't need items anymore. So it just straight up breaks all the walls the second the royal jelly dies. You still have that outer edge and a little bit of the side bits leading in towards the middle, but you'll have to see it to believe it, I guess. If you watch, I believe, Tengu Ice Elementalist Part 6, you'll also see slime at the very end, just like the last second, so you'll be able to see that there. Web traps created in play are destroyed on escape, so that's something because Ultraviolent was doing a shitpost, and basically he got that changed. It's not a huge deal, but it basically just means that once you leave a web, you don't have to like go back and like keep walking into it until you randomly destroy it. It just automatically destroys itself. The Tomb of Ancients now has a one-way escape hatch with its return hatches instead of nearby instead of stairs. So this one's a bit of a difference. So if you guys know what Tomb 3 looks like, Tomb 3 has 3 staircases really close to each other, and then a big corridor, and just a whole bunch of greater mummies and all those undead ancient liches and such rush you from basically in a big wave. Now they've removed that, so when you go downstairs, you have no upstairs, but on either side of the hallway, you'll see doors that enter you into the lungs, into the two lungs on the side, and those have escape hatches up. Now, I've been told, oops, my mic is not pointing at my face anymore, my apologies. So I've been told that this has been manageable to some degree. I have not tested it yet, so again, you're going to be seeing that in the tournament most likely. New transporter dungeon feature, one-way portal to somewhere else in the level. This is another thing by Gamma Funk. He made a couple of these. It works similarly to Passage of Galubria, except it's not activated by stepping on it. You activate it by going downstairs on it, and it just basically pushes you into this little vault that has a ton of enemies and treasure inside. So it's not super used right now. It's kind of rare, but if you see an orange portal anywhere, you can go in there for a bit of danger and a bit of excitement. It's fairly dangerous. Don't expect it to be an easy one. These are very similar to rune doors. I don't think that it's really that good of an idea to go into them unless you're quite a strong character. So yeah, just be careful about that. So in terms of the characters, this is quite a couple of the meme stuff. I don't know, like it's just all the memes come from here pretty much. So the frogs, Barakium, they have a hop ability and good aptitudes based on slow movement speed, and they have one extra increased line of sight. So they actually can see more, but more people can see them. They're slowed, but they also have a semi-controlled blink, which is pretty cool. Other than that, I don't really need to check, but I'm like 90% sure they have across the board flat aptitudes and whatnot. So there's no real like specialties, I believe. Now, these guys are going to probably make some pretty interesting mages. If you think about how controlled blink works, you think about how increased line of sight works with a mage, especially at full screen. It's a very interesting concept. I don't know if this exactly means much because, as I said, no other champion, no other race, I guess, has. I was going to say god or race has any ability affecting line of sight other than reducing it. So having one extra is interesting. So we'll be seeing how that goes. It doesn't look like melee is going to be too great with them because melee is all about restricting line of sight, and having increased line of sight hurts you more against ranged enemies and just in general getting surrounded. So it's a bit scary. So we'll see how they work. I haven't heard insanely good things about them yet. Like I've heard, like pretty much like a neutral response so far. So we'll see how that goes. You'll see that in the tournament quite soon, I guess. Ogre aptitudes have been adjusted, trading Mace and Flail skill for spells. So ogres have been reworked quite considerably, I suppose. All their spells went from -3 to -1 in terms of aptitudes, and their Mace and Flail skills went from +3 to -1. This is a huge change, and it's very interesting because polearms are actually better on ogre now than Mace and Flails. The devs have said that you still go for Mace and Flails because you get a trade-off for the late game, but going from +3 to -1 is pretty insane. So if you think about it, like you're really spending a lot of stuff to go into giant spike clubs, and then you have to also train spells. So it's very confusing. I have played a couple of ogre games, one or two, and it looks like They do okay as mages now. They're fairly mediocre mages, but the charm of ogre is pretty much gone. It's mostly just a meme now. I'm really not a fan of this change, and like there have been a couple of other people I talked to that are also not fans of this change. It's kind of frustrating, but that's the game, I guess. Sometimes sometimes your favorite race just becomes a dog. Uh, sometimes just you end up with a mage again. Wow, we got another human, guys! Yay! All right. Anyway, mummy spellcasting aptitude has been increased to +2 from -1. Now I'm going to say something about mummies later on, so don't worry about that. But let me just say for now that this change is really doubtfully like it really doesn't make too much of a difference considering how badly screwed over they got this version, so we'll talk about that in a sec. Deep Dwarves are the same. They no longer have the recharge ability that they used to have, which you used on your Wand of Heal Wounds, because those have been removed. Um, yeah, so they now have this innate ability that heals and has a chance of permanently reducing the MP. I don't really like this change either. It really does rely a lot more on RNG than before, because sometimes your healing will just start like taking out your MP really quick. Sometimes it just does nothing for like 10 floors, and in general, you don't want to spam it at all. It's quite a tough change. I'm not a fan of it, but we'll have to see how that rolls out again. Um, the strength is still there, especially in the early game. They're still whatever they used to be before, but you'll notice that the MP drain is quite a bit, depending on how much you use it, the MP is quite a bit higher, and in general, you have to go McLeod pretty much, because running through that much recharging is fine. The thing is, by having this innate ability and not the heal wounds one, you can't actually recharge the heal wounds one with regular scrolls of recharging, so you don't get extra healing, I guess. You're basically just losing your MP constantly throughout the game, unless you get McLeb, and then you can kind of sustain yourself with that. Elivalon is like also an idea, but McLeb is just generally much better. Like, there's no real reason to pick McLeb Ellie over McLeb, especially because you can't even use vampiric weapons on Ellie, which is like Deep Dwarf is like loving vamps so much, right? Like it just doesn't make too much sense. But yeah, that's like another change that I'll probably be talking about with the change of the wands. Loud noises no longer break mesmeration or fear, so that means that your scrolls with noise, yes, Mega Slime, that is you. Your lightning wands, they don't break mesmerization anymore, so I don't know why that changes a thing, but whatever, right? Like you can still break line of sight with fog, and you can still break line of sight with turning corners, but you can't use just a general one-turn move to break mesmerization. That does make shoals a little bit harder, so just be aware of that. Various bad forms, special cases being removed. No idea what that means. Wisp form apparently has been removed. That's fine. Like, it doesn't matter too much. Several abilities that trigger exhaustion now have their own cooldown timers, so essentially this relates to Berserk and a couple of other things. Berserk now no longer says exhaust slow, it just says Berserk slow. And Berserk slow means that it is independent of, say for example, your Rue abilities, which are now like I think they're really only pure exhaustion abilities now. So yeah, exhaustion and Berserk have been separated, so you can actually go Berserk and then exhaust yourself on Rue, so it's a bit of a buff. But other than that, it's not a big deal. A couple of things have been removed, so High Elves have been removed. Ouch. Ouch. High Elves, yeah, we all love them. And a lot of people didn't like the change, that they were like, don't take away our elves, that's our fantasy elf, what are our archer elves now? So, yeah, there's no real archer elf anymore. Elves are mostly mages now in this game, so that's pretty interesting. Deep elves still in the game, obviously. High elves, now gone. Main reason why is because they're one of the very few vanilla races left, I suppose. I think we're looking at Kobold, Halfling, about Kobold, Halfling, Human, and Hillock are probably like the 4 races that are like still vanilla as hell. Can't really think of any other ones that are like super vanilla right now. But yeah, it's like those 4 are like the super vanilla ones. So you might see one of those get removed in future versions. Hopefully Human, because humans suck. Model Draconians have been removed. I'm pretty sure that relates to the enemy. I don't know if that actually means our model draconian, but I assume it does. But yeah, they've been removed. Not sure why that's the case. Maybe because sticky flame is kind of weird. But yeah. Oh well, whatever. Vestigial lava orcs and the Jin. Okay, yeah, they've been removed. They went in the game for like several versions anyway, so it doesn't matter. But they're converted to hill orcs or blind stalkers. That's funny. Alright, cool. So Shining One's being buffed a little bit. We saw this, I think, 2 or 3 trunk updates ago. So Cleansing Flame now works better against non-evil enemies. All bonus stab damage attacks are prevented. So basically that means that you can still attack confused enemies, you just don't lose any, you don't gain any extra damage, and the Shining One isn't as pissed off at you for doing it. And you can now use poison under the Shining One, which is pretty cool. Just cleans up a little bit of his gameplay. Doesn't really make too much of a difference though. Minor Ellie Wrath effects have been removed. Enemy life saving strengthens. So if you, for some whatever god reason, switch from Ellie to some evil god, well, oh no, be careful, guys. Nemelex's Wrath reclaims all decks rather than sabotaging them. That's fine. So it's just another deck thing, another Wrath thing. It's fine. Interface stuff. Yeah. So the immediately upon entering the game, you'll notice that the race selection has been changed a little bit. So instead of having just random, like sort of random race allocations, you now have simple, intermediate, and advanced. There is some argument as to whether or not some races should be in the simple, intermediate, or advanced, but generally speaking, it's mostly accurate. Like it depends on player preference, really, but it's not intended to be like the definitive tier list. It's just kind of letting new players know what they should play first. Noise from the last turn is displayed in the top right, replacing gold. So gold, the little gold counter that you got in the main screen is now gone. It's actually only hidden behind the $ or the percentage sign. It's kind of annoying, but it has been removed with a noise meter, and the noise meter indicates how much noise has been generated, basically. So if you cast something like a fireball, the noise meter like fills up to like maybe 2/3, and that indicates that everything around you can hear you. So it's pretty interesting. It's not really used as like, you don't use it as like a massive calculator for like, oh crap, I gotta do this and this and this because this noise has hit this certain level. No, it's just mostly just a general guide of what's going on in the screen. It's fairly useful. I don't use it, like I don't care too much about it, but it does work to help new players understand the noise mechanic, which I have said before is a little bit too obtuse, I believe. Like I felt it was too obscure the way noise worked. It's really hard to tell who can hear you and who can't. So that has alleviated some of that issue that I had with it before. Terminal colors, no one cares about that. Well, you can read that yourself. I don't know what that means. Terminal, right? Lol. New equip bar option, yeah, it's also console only. Monster melee attacks, including estimates of potential damage, are now included in their descriptions. This is pretty helpful. When you X V, so X, move over the guy's tile and then press V to inspect. It now indicates what the melee attacks actually deal, how much damage they can deal. So you can get a fairly good idea of how much damage something is going to do. Keep in mind that this does not take into account weapons held. It just says it will do X amount of damage plus this thing, plus the damage of this weapon, right? So you do have to do a bit of mental arithmetic if you want to be very precise. Again, this is not supposed to be something that you like, oh, I absolutely have to like, calculate the average damage based on what I can see, what the max damage is, blah, 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 blah. It's not like that. You just mostly have a sense of how much damage something does. Generally speaking, like I said, Crawl is not a huge numbers game. It's more of an intuitive kind of thing. So if you don't memorize the attack damage of every enemy, it's fine. You're gonna understand intuitively based on how strong your character is anyway. That's just like a general consequence of how things work. Sorry guys, the mic is not staying on my face. Alright, there we go. Cool. So the player's odd of succeeding with melee confusion attacks displayed now, so that's just mostly confusing touch. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Auto Butcher can now be configured to trigger on different hunger levels, so this one's quite nice. Auto Butcher, if you guys haven't seen it, it basically just says whenever there's something on the floor, a corpse, you just like automatically walk over it and butcher it. But now it can be, configured to trigger on different hunger levels, which is pretty nice. Stash searches now hide duplicate matches, so when you control F something, it basically condensed the list a lot more. So you rarely ever have to scroll down to see something, and it's pretty helpful. You'll see it if you just like control F, like say armor. Like go down to like lair, control F armor, you'll see like all the duplicates just like stacked on top of each other. Note that this does not count for brands, so all the brands will be different as well. So it's pretty nice. Red draining is now divided into red and magenta. Magenta is the worst one, so this one is just a little bit more. I used to call it crimson. It's just called magenta apparently. Pretty interesting. Red draining is just like it doesn't change how red draining works pretty much. The mouse can now be used in web tiles. Again, this is not great. It still doesn't really work with the it doesn't work with the menus and like sorry. You have to still open up the menus with the keyboard. I think it is because there's no like indicator on the bottom right hand corner like you see in offline. But I have noticed that you can actually click around and just do stuff. It's really not that good of an idea though. It's not going to be more accessible really because it's just raw. Local versions now have much improved support for custom sounds. See below for details. I might actually try that one in a future video, so keep an eye out for that. Let's see, items. So items, the new scarf slot. This is the same thing. This is an alternative to cloaks, and they give 0 AC. So cloaks give 1 AC and can be enchanted to +2. Scarves will never give any AC, and they cannot be enchanted. But they always have an ego. So the 4 egos they had are repel missiles, resistance, spirit shield, and cloud immunity. So spirit shield is just guardian spirit. Resistance gives you fire and magic, fire and cold resist. Repel missiles just repel missiles, and cloud immunity just is literally what it says in the box. It's any cloud you see, you're immune to it. Previously, cloud immunity used to be resist cold, and it was just pretty much the most common scarf, and also the most disappointing one to see, because it's literally just a worse resistance. So now each one has its own niche. It's often an interesting trade-off. I actually honestly believe that it's an interesting trade-off between having a +2 regular cloak and having just like cloud immunity, for example. Like you don't really. It depends on what character you're having, how low the AC is, etc., etc. Because 3 AC is like it's not bad. Like if you think about a +3 ring of protection, that's pretty good. That's like on average, that's fairly good. Usually like above average almost in terms of jewelry. So like having that +3 extra AC, or in general just losing that potential for 3 AC, it is fairly significant sometimes if your character is super squishy. But with a resistance and a repel missiles, scarves, they tend to be just generally considerably worth it to have instead of a cloak, just because repel missiles are just so damn good, especially because they removed the spell repel missiles, which we'll be talking about later, and resistance is just good. Like RFR, RC, who doesn't want that, right? It's pretty good. Evocations. New one types, clouds and scatter shots. So clouds is similar to the rods. Both of these are similar to the rods. They basically work exactly the same way, except that now they don't function on a recharge timer. They simply just have charges. I think they're both 9 shots each. The lightning rod has been changed, so it's no longer that thing that recharges over time and you basically use it every fight. It's now 4 charge XP evocable, but otherwise it still works the same way. One scale better with evocations doesn't make it an incentive to train evo. Ones can no longer be zapped while confused, that's fine. Wands of disintegration will no longer destroy terrain. So this means that disintegration wands are now simply full screen explosive weapons. Like they just it's not a good wand. It's good in the early game, and then you ditch it like literally the second you finish, say for example, your first rune. It's over. There's no reason to use it because it's an MR based damage thing. It doesn't do anything. It's like it used to break one tile, right? It doesn't do that anymore. So that's been replaced. So digging is like literally just the only terrain forming one we have. So that's a bit unlucky. Also, yeah. Oh, here we go. So in terms of wands, they've removed every single rod, all the discs of storms, and they've also removed all our yellow wands. So heal wounds, haste, and teleport are all gone now. They said that they buffed up the percentage changes for heal wounds, potions, haste potions, and teleport scrolls by some amount of numbers respectively. And I'm gonna say it here, that absolutely does nothing. Like you can barely notice it ever. Heal wounds, haste, and teleport are gone, and it does nerf the character. It is feel like you can feel it when you're missing it. It just feels like you're constantly missing those 3 ones. The teleports I have noticed on average. I've played about like at least 30 or 40 games in the new trunk, and now soon to be stable. and it really sucks. The teleport is lower than usual now. It does feel like I'm running out of teleport almost every game. Haste is very rare. Heal wounds is more common, I admit. But yeah, it's pretty rough sometimes. Uh, don't like this change, but that's because I don't like the fact that the player's been nerfed so heavily. The 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 idea behind removing this is that it leads to degenerative gameplay because once you get one of these things, your character basically wins because you can recharge them endlessly, etc., and basically have infinite consumables of that type. And they didn't want to have the fact that they didn't want to have ones that basically mimic consumables. And look, that's fine. That's fine. Get rid of it. But like, buff our stuff more. You know what I mean? Like, make us feel like the game hasn't changed. It is harder. It is. Like, it is seriously. You do feel like the consumables have been really like cut loose. Like in terms of haste, you're not going to get more than 10 haste a game in a 3-room. Like, no way. It's pretty rough. Like having that little sometimes. I've had a lot of deaths in Zot where I'm just like, well, I got no consumables left, no teleport, no haste. I'm like, fuck, I'm dead. There's no, like, what am I supposed to do in that case, right? Like, there are a lot of situations where having these ones would have made the difference for the character, and sometimes they just don't get over the line because they don't have enough stuff. They run out of steam. So I'm not a fan of this change. I'm really not a fan of this change, but like I said, it's in the game. I can't do anything about it, and it's very unlikely to be reverted. So, yeah. Um, yeah, other than that, the wands have been pretty much changed as well. It hasn't been shown here, but the ranges of each wand have been changed. So uh, Ice Blast and Acid wands, which are still two of the best ones now. Uh, Pretty much now they are no longer full screen. They're kind of like 1 or 2 tiles behind full screen. So they're not. The wands are no longer full screen in general. Only the Disintegration wand, I believe, and maybe the Fire wand, Flame wand is full screen. Don't know if Lightning wand's also full screen. Might not be. But yeah, they've also nerfed wands. So it's just like, what are the good wands again? So literally the ones that we have are like Flame, Digging, Disintegration, Clouds, Scattershot, Acid, and Lightning. Oh, and like Enslavement, Polymorph, but those ones don't really, like, no one cares about those. And Paralysis and Fusion, right? So like, in terms of wands you actually pick up, it's literally just Digging and Acid if you feel like kind of spicy today, or Ice Blast, right? So it's not really that great. Not a fan of the way that wands are working out right now. They need to be, something needs to give. The devs just can't keep cutting away from the wand selection and then justifying it as, oh, it's fine, guys, the wands are still useful. Yes, they're useful, but they're not ever something you want to pursue at all, and in general, they're a mechanic that you just drop really quick because they're not that good. Especially, like, having it scale with evocations is just like, it's just so stupid. You've nerfed everything to do with evocation. You got rid of Nemelex, you got rid of Picellus. Oh, sorry, like, Nemelex is Invo God now. Picellus just straight up gone. like, there's no reason for me to go evocations. Like, it's so, what? Why are you telling us this? It's just like a meme. What's the point? The unrandots have been changed, so Maxwell's Thermic Engine. This weapon I said was cool, but it actually has RF RC minus, so it's a garbage weapon. Rat Skin Cloak has been changed, so now I can summon rats. This is really good actually. I've used it. They are pretty damn good, especially in Lair if you get it that early. Harpoise and having extra rats, very useful. Amulet of Bloodlust was buffed now, gives more slay and more MR. It's actually a pretty good amulet. I believe my world record run actually runs the Amulet of Bloodlust, and it was pretty insane. So, good stuff. Shield of Ignorance was buffed now. That's pretty cool. I used it once or twice. Not bad. Sword of Jihad has been renamed to Zealot Sword, and Ring of Shaolin has been renamed to Ring of Phasing. Bow of Krishna Shagna has been renamed to Zephyr. So, um, like, just look, if you go on Discord, you ask Z about it, he's gonna get triggered to all hell. Apparently, like, Eastern exoticism's been phased out, guys. I don't know why I'm saying it like that, but yeah, like, he's real triggered about it, so you can ask him. But basically, they've removed all the mentions of pretty much anything to do with non-Eurocentric whatever stuff. It doesn't matter. No one cares. Scepter of Torment, no one uses that, and Captain Cutlass, no one uses that. Potions of Cure Mutation, Beneficial Mutation, and mutation have been merged, so all three now get merged. I have some pretty good discussion on this on one of the earlier trunked updates, but I'll give you the short and sweet of it. Basically, the way that the new mutations work is it cleanses you first, and then it gives you a set of mutations, and it's fairly well weighted towards, I think it's like 60-40 or something, weighted towards good mutations. So you're fairly likely to get good mutations by the end of the game. Now the problem with this is that mutation roulette is not amazing because you have to use your mutation potions to cleanse bad mutations, not just have good mutations. So the way that I've been noticing the way I noticed this to be done, this has been done, or at least the way mutations play out now, is you avoid mutations as much as possible, save it up, save it up, save it up, and then you go to Zot, get mutated by Orbs of Fire, drink mutation potions till you get a good set, and then you play like the last 3 minutes with like 4 or 5 good mutes, and that's it. Like, and you're running out of mutes by that point. It used to be pretty good when the mutation potions were fairly common, but then they nerfed it because they were like, oh wait, these mutation potions are actually good. So essentially, yeah, like basically the big fuck you to anyone who enjoys using early game mutations, because once you use those early game mutations, your late game is going to be kind of screwed a little bit. And it also does mess with players like me who hate mutations. Just I only get cure mutes and beneficial mutations sometimes. Like pretty much it forces you to roulette every single time. So it's a little bit rough because if you look at the Tengu Ice Elementalist finale, I actually drink a mutation potion like 3 or 4 times to get rid of 1 mute, and I just keep cycling and I can't get it out. It's like, oh my god, I used like the equivalent of 4 cure mutes to get rid of 1 mutation. It's just like, fuck. It's really annoying sometimes, but whatever. It's not the worst thing that's ever happened in this game compared to like the other things, but that's fine. All types of food now take 1 turn to eat, so basically fruit is useless and rations are really good. And all types of manuals are pre-identified, that's good. Giant Black Clubs have had their base delay slightly lowered. No one cares. Ogres are not a mace and flail class anymore. They're really not, because it's like a lot of EXP at minus 122 Mindole, or whatever the hell it is. It's a lot of EXP that you're putting in on a mage class. Doesn't really make too much sense. So that's been, yeah, kind of rough. Everything else is pretty much worthless, except beef jerky and pizza. They've been removed. That's really rough. I don't like that. But we have to move on because we are going really hard into the time. So Draconian Call has been changed. Model dragons have been removed. They're replaced with acid dragons. Look, no one cares about Draconian Callers. They're different now. Whatever. Like, it's cool. Fine. But model dragons turning to acid dragons is pretty interesting because acid dragons now shoot acid at you. They're yellow, and they drop acid dragon armor, which instead of model dragon armor, which gave ARP sticky, which was useless, these acid dragon armors give you arc road, which is kind of useful, but like it's still model dragon armor, but it's just reskinned and given arc road. It's not very good. It's never going to be very good, but that's fine. Like honestly, like I said, swamp dragon armor will still probably be like among the premium armors for mages. And you're gonna go for like gold dragon if you're heavy melee. Like really, everything else is still fairly mediocre. So two-headed ogres have been kind of merged with hill giants, which have been removed, and now they hurt like hell. These guys hurt. Be very careful when you first see one because they will hit you for a shitload of damage. They do a lot more damage. They do like hill giant level damage, but twice. So be very careful about the way you deal with them. They are manageable by the time you get to them usually, but if an early one spawns, you're usually going to get killed in 1 or 2 turns if you stay in melee with them, so don't do that. The draining effect now once again lowers monsters' MR. Yep, cool. Various unique monsters give better rewards for defeating them. I'm trying to think of a example. Oh, I guess that's with the next one. The next one. Monsters such as alligators get a larger movement speed increase when they use their sprint. I still don't know why there's no indicator for sprint. It's really annoying that they don't just have a haste thing above their tile. Like, just tell us they're fucking sprinting. Like, it's so annoying that they're just suddenly faster than you. You don't know. Like, and then you're just like, well, why did I get random energy 3 times in a row? Well, they're faster than you. Turns out they just didn't tell you unless you press Control P and read the fucking message bar. But no one does that, right? This one's the one that triggers. This change is the one that triggers Ultra. Maurice and Ijib now always have wands, and Ijib first appears a bit deeper in the dungeon. So These guys have always guaranteed to get ones, and Ijib has acid, like, ooh, God, hurts sometimes. I have had 2 streaks broken now from Ijib, I believe, where she just hits me with an acid wand and kills me in 1 turn, or hits me with a lightning wand, double zap, and I die. That's really not fun. Um, not a fan of how this works. It guarantees death. Like, you can get killed. It just adds like one more case where like one-shotting you is just a thing. Like, I'm really not a fan of the way that works. Ijib, if she or he, whatever, I don't remember which one got changed, but if Ijib gets like, if you like turn a corner, Ijib's there and he notices you, good luck. Like, if he just has a good one, you might just be dead. Like, it's unlucky. What can you do? So yeah, it's not really great. Draconian ghosts will no longer have negative energy breath. Thank fucking god, because those things are obnoxious as hell. The early game Draconian ghosts were the most disgusting things in the game. They were just so bad. Hit you for negative energy, drain, takes like 30 of your health out, and you're just like, oh god, why? Oh, it's rough. So thank god they're gone. Everything else has been removed. Draconian zealots, hill giants, and multi draconians. That's fine. Onto the spells. Poisonous Vapors. So Poisonous Vapors is a short-range duration poison cloud on a target creature. It is full screen and smite targeted, and it starts off in the Venom Mage book. It's level 2, so poison air spells, which is good because it provides a nice transition to Mythic Cloud. And I will say this, Venom Mage has become a lot more usable because of this spell. You no longer have to rely on Sting to create a ton of poison damage. You actually have something that's relevant. Cure Poison's gone from your book, but whatever. It's Cure Poison, right? No one really learns that spell. And if you do, it's mostly because you're trying to transition to melee anyway. So Poison Vape is actually not a bad spell. I did a Venom Mage on my Greater Player run, and it was fairly acceptable, honestly. It was very acceptable for a spell. It has quite good damage, and you can use it from just like, it's just a good spell. Like, it's hard to say anything bad about it. It's just, for a level 2 spell, it's exactly what it says in the book, and it's just a useful spell. Applies poison. If you're standing right next to the guy, you can keep him in the poison cloud. Does extra poison damage. It's just a nice spell. New spell, Ignition, level 8 fire, so single spell school. It drops a weakened fireball on every monster in line of sight. The caster and their allies are never going to be affected. This thing is real fun. Watch the Tengu Ice Elementalist game if you want to see Ignition, particularly the last 3 videos. This thing is a monster with Vehement, because you can deal a lot of damage to AoE in AoE. This is like that big fireball fire spell. Like, this is what Firestorm is if it was actually like a full fire spell. This is like what you wish Quaslol was. This is actually what you wish Quaslol was. It's insanely high damage if you stack enemies on top of each other, because each of the firewalls just stack. It rewards you for just like getting into these big fights, because you can just blow everything up in 2 or 3 casts. And if you're playing Vehement, you just get all that mana back, and you're just like, oh my god, this is so much fun. I managed to kill Bolts 5 in 2 turns. 2 turns. The entire ring was gone in literally 2 turns. It was insane. It was so much fun. So it's a great spell. Don't know if it's like insanely effective, because again, it's a weakened fireball. It's not that much more damage than just hitting it with a bolt of fire. But against big groups, it's a real fun spell, especially if you're getting hit from multi-direction. And the best thing is, you can still have summons and use it. It's so good. You can create summons to like make them cluster up, and then you can ignition them and then stack it, and your summons don't even get killed. So it's great. It does good work. Gel's Gravitas, no one cares about that, but it's now translocations only. Whatever. No one even knows what that spell does. Portal Projectile, no one uses that spell. It's now T-Lock Hex. Fine. The Warper and Arcane Marksman starting book's been changed a bit, so Warper now gets Gel's Gravitas, and Arcane Marksman gets Portal Projectile. This is obviously because Portal Projectile and Arcane Marksman are like supposed to be synonymous, but until now it's literally not been in the book, so it's really weird. Both starting spells are still shit. Like, the starting book still sucks, so don't expect that to be amazing. Portal Projectile is like whatever. It doesn't really matter. Realistically, the ranged is good enough, and most of the time you're so busy training ranged or melee on Arcane Marksman that you don't really use Portal Projectile, so it doesn't matter. Book of Conjuration, so Battle Sphere has been replaced, guys. Battlesphere is now only found in the Book of Power, which again makes me wonder. Book of Power is a little bit too strong for every single good spell in there to be put in the Book of Power. But now Book of Conjurations has been replaced. The spell has been replaced with Force Lance, which is a very inadequate replacement. It's not very good as a replacement. So conjurers have become significantly weaker and less efficient at doing what they do best, which is killing stuff. So it's been overall now for a new player, I would suggest going for a Fire Elementalist instead. Book of Air, Repel Missiles has been removed. Rest in peace. But Airstrike has been added to the Book of Air. That makes it a pretty good spell, honestly. It's a pretty good addition to the book. Of course, ignoring the fact that Repel Missiles is gone. Rest in peace again. Airstrike is, if you didn't know, smite targeted, deals extra damage to flying, guaranteed hit, but it's fairly low damage. Is a nice spell for picking off enemies, but yeah, it's the Book of Air is still not that amazing because it's still lacking that just nice single target damage. It's Airstrike is single target, but it's low damage. We need something that's a little bit more juicy. Lightning Bolt a little bit too loud and a little bit too clunky and inaccurate, so it's kind of just eh. But Airstrike, yeah, it has Tengu Elementalist. God damn it, not good. But Draconian Air Elementalist, not bad. Yeah, we're basically just seeing that Airstrike is a good addition to the book. Confusing Touch less effective. Sandblasts, now you no longer have to hold on to the stupid rocks. But it no longer functions without ammo. That's scary. And can't consume large rock. Okay, that's interesting. So that mostly doesn't matter, but it could be really bad if your Earth Elementalist runs out of Sandblast in your first floor because you don't find stones or something, but it should be okay. And so the removed spells, Delayed Fireball has been removed, so rest in peace. That makes way for Ignition. Delayed Fireball was always a cool spell that no one really ever cared about. It's kind of an interesting one because you didn't really use it often, but it was a weird spell and we liked it, but it's gone. Ignition is a cooler, shinier version, so it's not like it's going to be missed too much. Poisonous Cloud's been removed. That makes sense. I said this when I first saw the new Olgrebs, Toxic Radiance, but Olgrebs does what Poison Cloud does, but with two less skill levels, less hunger, and it's also full screen and better. Like in almost every way, Olgrebs outclass Poison Cloud. Poison Cloud poison you faster, but Olgrebs poison you for more targets, more consistently, more accurately, and with less stress. It was just a significantly better spell. It's also single spell school compared to Poison Cloud's tri-spell school. So now the only cloud spell we got that's like the levels in the level 5-6 area is Freezing Cloud, which is fine. And Repel Missiles again has been gone. Now again, the issue that I have with Repel Missile being gone is again it fucks over a lot of characters like Octopode, Feelid, and Mummy who are already naturally really squishy. Now they have less protection. Speaking of Mummy, I forgot to talk about this. One cool thing that I've noticed about the fact that these yellow ones have been removed, so these Heal Wounds, Haste, and Teleport, mummies are like Formicids, and they're like Vine Stalkers, except they're shit in both regards. You can't heal on a mummy, and you can't haste on a mummy anymore. Yeah, fun fact, guys, you can't do either of those. That's why I said that the +2 spellcasting doesn't mean shit. Mummies are fucking terrible in this game. They can't heal and they can't haste. Like, they literally have the same restriction as Vinestalker. They literally have the same restriction as Formicid. Or roughly the same restriction as Formicid. And that is really, really rough. Like, I legitimately have no idea how I'm going to do a mummy in the tournament. That's going to be hilariously bad. Yeah, so if you were going to play mummy, don't. Just don't. It's going to be better for you. Because this is really rough. Alright, I'm going to have to leave it here, guys. So again, if you want to play in the tournament, oh, actually, I should probably talk about how I think of the entire version as a whole. There's been a lot of problems with this version. I think this is probably the version that I like the least out of the newest one. Mostly because of the fact that a lot of the little guys get screwed. Generally speaking, all the stuff in here hurts the mummy a lot, hurts Felix, hurts Octopus. It just makes those weak races weaker. It just really does suck. And it doesn't change melee that much. Like that's the problem. Like the game is moving towards this area where like the weak get weaker and the strong get no one cares about the strong because they're already stronger. Like they don't like the change is really really against playing mages, weak characters, weak races, etc. etc. Like it hurts. Like why every single game, every single round. I can probably go through this 0.19 stuff and I'd find like 2 or 3 changes that also nerf the player consistently. Especially the weak ones. Like I'm not gonna go through that because it's unnecessary, but you know what I mean. Like it's significant, guys. I wouldn't downplay this. So not a fan of this version particularly. The game's dungeon crawl still dungeon crawl, but it's starting to move in this direction that I'm not liking. So I'm going to try to like I guess be more concise about why this is not as good. Like why these things are fucking over the player. But we'll probably talk about that more in the tournament. Um, like I said, it's still crawl at the end of the day. It's still crawl. You can't screw up the golden formula. It's already crawl. These small things won't be noticed by a new player most of the time. They'll just feel like crawl's harder than usual, but it's fine. It's still playable. It still is. You can still win with it. It's still fairly consistent. It's just a lot of the new stuff makes it so that your old stuff is really hard. It's pretty rough. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it here, guys. If you want to play in the tournament, please let me know in the comments. If you like these kind of catch-up videos, or if you benefited from it, from this discussion, because I do the trunk update videos, but this one is just like aggregating the whole thing. Yeah, leave a like. We're getting close to 1,000 subs. I will probably be doing a channel update at the time where we reach that, or a little bit above that, because in case our sub count drops. But yeah, other than that, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope to see you all in the tournament. Make sure if you want to just hop onto our Discord, ask questions or in time, or in general just do that. Please do, because it's been a real good hub of conversation recently. A lot of new players are joining in. They're getting a lot of advice, a lot of first wins we're seeing, and the tournament is going to be a huge environment for learning like that. So hopefully we'll be seeing something pretty cool from all of you. So thank you again, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow.